So when they're making up stories, even that, does this imply that Paul Revere, a beloved American figure, was hiding drugs in his home? Next one. This one is on South America, and it has a pie graph. Y'all know pie graphs. They were easy for us. We liked them because they were visual. The big piece, the little piece, you could understand what it meant without looking at the numbers. Roman Catholics, because the Spanish invaded South America, they established the Roman Catholic religion there. So naturally, it's the largest piece. But the questions down here have to do with the negativity of what that means. Now, there's no information in the pie graph that is positive or negative, but the questions then are asking the child to determine what would the negative influence of that be. Why not having the positive influence of something? So again, the way the question is written is very important. The State Board of Education, if this bill goes through, it's gone through the Senate, and it's gone through the House committee, and it will come to the floor if it makes the calendar. Then they'll vote on it. Then it will have a state board committee of which they will go through the social studies lessons this summer and doing this. Okay. If they do that and they correct whatever is offensive to everybody, unless they have something in there that says that you cannot go back and change it back, the mechanism of control has never been brought out as to who controls this and who has their finger on the switch. Okay. This one is not a bad lesson because the information in the boxes are relatively factual and accurate, because you have capitalism on the bottom with less government, and you have communism on the top with more government. Control in the blue area shows that, from going from less to more. Okay. But what does the latter tell you? So you have something where somebody is climbing up. That generally means, there you go. Okay. And this one, you've seen this one as well. Creating a new flag that they have, and you're studying the symbols on the flag. The next one, please. And as you look at those, and you're supposed to create your own. Imagine a new socialist nation is creating a flag, and you've been put in charge of creating a flag. Use symbolism to represent aspects of socialism and communism on your flag. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Especially with time being so precious in the classroom. Now, today we'll make one on communism, tomorrow we'll make one on democracy, but there's not an activity for that. This one is on the United Nations on zero population. Again, it depends on how the material is presented. And if there's no checks and balances on how the material is presented, then we've got a problem. I put this one there because population growth is a big Agenda 21 thing that's out there. And you can argue that it should be something we should look at. Yes, we should address this issue. But they spend 25 days on this. That's 5 weeks on one topic. And they're supposed to grow some duckweed too at the same time to prove about something about population growth. Okay. And then you're supposed to study something in a cemetery. So it's good learning, I guess. What the State Board of Education Chair Barbara Cargill brought up the Senate committee hearing was a lesson on the Declaration of Independence of the U.S. Constitution. He said, okay, great, now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. Here's something really good we can sink our teeth into. But at the end of most of these lessons, if you don't look through the whole thing to see what the lessons and activities are, at the end of this one was one that you did an activity on freeing up Libya. What does that have to do with our Constitution? Okay. A brazen disconnect between the lessons and the test material. Again, when you look at the test material and they have questions on there that have nothing to do with the lesson, then you wonder why. Is it incompetency? Maybe that's it. Maybe these region centers got together and put together a product, never published anything before, and decided that they're going to make money from this. And they put it out there, and they didn't have a review board. They didn't have any editors, and they threw things together, and they made a bad product. But they've had this for 6 years out there. 6 years with teachers. Now, what if I made a product, whatever it is, the steps to do something, and I'm going to sell it to you? Okay. Wouldn't I make it the best product possible because I've got a competitor over here that's going to jump on me for every little mistake that I've made, and he's going to outprice me or underprice me? But with CSCOPE, it's not finished when it's sold to you. You have to fix all of the problems. I'm going to threaten you with a suit if you do anything or tell anybody about how bad this is. And any corrections you make on my product here, then is mine, not yours. And then I'm going to have your administrators watch you really close in doing that. Okay, this one was one from the lady that made Fox News that was not in CSCOPE. But the reason I put it up here was that if I walked out right now and said, if nothing else, have your school boards start a local curriculum review board. And if nothing else, you do all year long or take compliments on whatever curriculum you're using. But you have a curriculum review board because CSCOPE is going to go out or they'll change the name to it. But there's always going to be something that comes in. And unless there is a procedure in which local control can stay on top of this, then we're depending on a system that is now proven faulty in doing it. And she got mad, of course. I'm going to skip that one. And that one as well. Okay. On this one was one that upset Barbara Cargill the most, was that the one on propaganda that was Unit 3, Lesson 2, and propaganda was one word in one of the TEKS objectives of a number of them that were listed. One word, list of TEKS objective, and the whole lesson was around this particular one. And it had in there where it tells kids the different, it teaches kids the different techniques. You won't just learn how to list them, you will now model how to use them. So all of the use of techniques of propaganda, the kids are put up in a social setting and allowed to do that in the classroom. Then the kids are told that, oh, by the way, you already use it. You use it with your parents when you are trying to hide a bad grade on your test or when you're trying to convince somebody of something. So they're justifying whatever that bad behavior was and identifying that as propaganda. Then I'm going to teach you propaganda techniques. And the next one. How could all this happen and no one know about it? Well, they circumvented, divided, conquered, isolated, and gagged. They went around the State Board of Education, the Commissioner of TA. A lot of people are blaming the State Board of Education and TA over this, but they didn't go to those people. These region directors got together and used employees, tax dollar paid employees in the region directors to put this product together. Then they got together and made a nonprofit organization, TESCCC, which was the Texas Education Service Center Collaborative. Nonprofit took control of it as the 19 directors, then licensed it back to themselves so then they could license it to schools, because you don't buy anything, you just buy access to it. You buy air. By the end of the year, then you have to give it back for the next year in doing it. But they did this is illegal. Their organization was illegal from the beginning. They have broken probably about 12 questionable policies or laws in this whole procedure. Educators at large, CSCOPE was only promoted through the TASA, which is the school school administrators and school board members, and CSCOPE conventions. This product was not promoted, and it was not out there for other conferences. That's how I first heard about it with those teachers. I'd had 3 teachers that were gifted and talented say, can you do something on CSCOPE? So I called the gifted and talented conference leader, and I said, you've got me doing 2 presentations. There's a lot of questions about this CSCOPE stuff. Would you like me to do one on that? He said, yes. In fact, they'll do the other side of what it is, and if you'll do something besides CSCOPE, then that'll be the other side. I said, okay, I'll do it. So got there in the fall, and they didn't have their presentation. There was nobody there on the other side. Mine was what CSCOPE does not address. And it was basically just using independent and individual merit with accelerated learning. It was some basic things that you would do with gifted and talented kids that we've known for a long time. I've done umpteen presentations out there for conferences. This is the only one that I never got through the presentation. Because at that presentation, there were 3 groups of region centers people that were out in the audience. And when I would open my mouth and point at something, they would interrupt me and say, you lie. And I would say, well, this is the results that we got when I did, well, you must be mistaken. That can't be right. And so they would interrupt me constantly, and I'd never had that done before. And finally, I just had to close down the whole thing and say, for those that want information from me, come to me personally. Those that disagree with me, I'm sorry, I can't help you. and then left from there. And then I found out, because they left the papers on the seat, because I have forms that generally fill out, that I found out that they were from Region Centers and they wanted my PowerPoint presentation in doing that. So that bully technique that was from them, and the bully technique that's used with parents, and the bully technique that's used with teachers, is at all levels. And I do not see anything Christian about that. And that's when I stepped across the line. Okay. CSCOPE was promoted by superintendents using fear and rose-colored glasses. Now, I'm not saying that all superintendents are bad and all superintendents are behind this or whatever. They can be just as blinded as you and I can, or they can be convinced of something too if they're told half-truths. But they had to present this to the school boards. Whatever information they gave to the school boards and whatever the school boards voted on it, sounds good, doesn't cost that much, save us money, we'll be addressing the star. You know, we'll have those TEKs bundled up, and they used fear, basically. If you don't do this, we won't cover all the TEKs in the time period, or we won't be ready for that STAR test. Teacher gags, we gag them with the user agreement and the 3-minute walkthrough and the computer monitoring. CSCOPE, then, when these teachers were coming to me, and as I was telling a gentleman here earlier, I did not go out looking for this. This came to me, and so when I had to do the report, then I started just kind of searching, and I ran across 4 veteran retired teachers, 4 ladies that were very comfortable in their retirement, who had taken up looking into CSCOPE and different things, and had come to me, and in the 4 of us, we had done different angles of it. So I cannot describe it anything but divine intervention, because for that all to come together at the same time, the same place, and to get it to put it there, then it jived. So one of them was writing to the CSCOPE people, we want your minutes of your meeting. We want to see the lessons. We have complaints on the lessons. We need to see that. Boom. Write a letter to the Attorney General, asking the Attorney General, no, we don't want to reveal what's in the CSCOPE lessons, because our competitors will use this brilliant program and then they will outperform us or whatever. Then another teacher said, I want to see your agenda and your minutes. Boom. Another letter goes to the Attorney General. We need to stop. Do we have to show them? They have violated the Open Meeting Act a number of times in doing this. So they made 2 attempts to block people asking questions about it. And at that point, there was no finger pointing at it. We just want to know what's in it. And in that point, one of the teachers was highly demonized in it. She was accused of wanting to write her own program to take away CSCOPE's money-making ability. She was 78 years old, and she had an alien husband. And yes, she wanted to beat up CSCOPE and take his product and then get one out there for herself.